In today's video, I'm going to dive back into the Thai language for those people who are here for that. And although it's a kind of tutorial, the main point I'm trying to make is that if you're learning to speak Thai, you should also learn to read Thai, because the transliteration system, this is rendering Thai words with the English alphabet, is a complete nightmare, and it will actually make things more difficult for you rather than easier. So just before I go into my channel intro, look at the name of the brand here. This is sunflower oil. This is a transliteration of the Thai word, and tell me how you would pronounce it. Now my guess is that you probably thought about the place in Burma, Rangoon, and pronounced it Angoon. And I don't blame you at all, because that's exactly how I would pronounce it. But this is the transliteration for the Thai word for grape, and it sounds nothing like Angoon. And if you went into a fruit shop in Thailand and asked for Angoon, even if you spoke in Thai, the vendor wouldn't have a clue what you were talking about and would probably think you were crazy. Farang ba. When I first started learning to speak Thai, before I could read Thai, I had huge problems with transliteration, and I got very frustrated because when I read transliterated words, there was no connection to the sounds that I heard coming from the mouths of Thai people. And it wasn't until I was able to read Thai that I really understood how bad the transliteration system was. Now the first difficulty is separating syllables within words. And when we look at this word, this consonant here is followed by a vowel. And therefore it can't be a final consonant, because final consonants are not followed by vowels. It has to be an initial consonant. So this part of the word is the second syllable. So the first part of the word, the first syllable, is just this one character. Now this character in Thai is very flexible. It can be used as a consonant or a vowel, and it also has other purposes, which I'll cover later in the video. So as a vowel, it can go in between consonants, and it sounds like an English O. So if I was to do a kind of straightforward transliteration of this word, we get a G, an O, and a D. And there's one other confusing thing. With Thai, the consonants change sound whether they are initial or final consonants. And this Dordek character here makes a D sound as an initial consonant, but it makes a T sound as a final consonant. So what we really get is G-O-T. And it's pronounced with a low tone. That's because this initial consonant here is mid-class. It's a dead syllable, and it's a long vowel, so it's a low tone. So God, and that means hug. But the other thing about Thai is that these vowels aren't always written, they're just implied. So with this word for law in Thai, this final consonant is exactly the same as this one. They make D sounds as initial consonants and T sounds as final consonants. But the Dordek is much more common, and you don't see this one very much. But basically they're the same sound, because there's an implied or ang in the middle. So it's the same, God, with a low tone and a completely different meaning. This character is also used for tone purposes. And when it's used for tone purposes, it makes no sound at all. And what I'm about to explain may sound a bit confusing, but once you get used to it, it's not confusing. And the tone of a Thai word depends on several factors, and one of the factors is the class of the initial consonant. So this word here, yak, it means you want to do something. You know, yak gin cow, I want to eat rice. Yak riam Pasa Thai, I want to learn Thai language. And because of the or ang at the front, this word has an initial consonant class of mid. And it has a long vowel, and it's a dead syllable. So the combinations of those three things, so a mid-class initial consonant, and a dead syllable and a long vowel give it a low tone. If that character wasn't there, the initial consonant will be this one, which is low class. And because it's a different class, it would have a different tone. With a low class initial consonant and a dead syllable and a long vowel, it would actually have a falling tone. So it's only there for tone purposes, and it doesn't make any sound at all. Some vowels in Thai are written above the consonant. Some vowels are written below the consonant. Some vowels are written after the consonant. Some are written before, and vowel combinations surround the consonant. Now, if you have a word that starts with a vowel sound, such as India, that sara I vowel is written above a consonant. You can't just have the vowel on its own, just sort of hanging in the air above nothing. There's got to be a consonant underneath, but you don't want the consonant to make any sounds. So this is another use of this character. It acts as a silent consonant. So you put it at the front of the word so that you've got a consonant to put your vowel above or below, but it doesn't actually make any sound itself. So any Thai word that starts with a vowel sound will have this consonant at the front. India, Ubatihet, and Ahan. English is terribly inconsistent phonetically, and Thai is generally a lot better, but there are some inconsistencies. Now, following what I was just saying about words that begin with vowel sounds, there's another vowel I need to cover, and that makes a short sound, and this character here makes that sound. So, following the system I just told you about, what should happen is that if a word begins with it should have this vowel, and it should also have the silent consonant. And in words like arai, which means what in Thai, it follows that system. However, there are other words that begin with a short sound that don't follow that system. Instead of having the short vowel and the silent consonant, they just have the silent consonant. And I'm not really sure why this is, because it doesn't make a lot of sense. So for words like America, aluminium, Angon, which is the word for grape, it just has that or-ang consonant and not the or-ang and the sara-a. There are just so many problems with the transliteration system. One problem is that there are many countries with completely different languages that use the same basic Latin alphabet. So the German word for yes, ja, the J in German is pronounced like a Y in English, and the short would be short in English, is actually a long sound, an in German. And in French, the J would be pronounced more like a je. And even just in English, there are inconsistencies. You look at the English word for food, that double O sound is an oo, and for foot, the double O sound is an u. And with Thai, there are different vowels for those two different sounds. And it's the same with the English words but and put. Really, those two words should rhyme, but they don't. They've got completely different sounds. So the vowel sound changes because of the context of the word. And this must be extremely confusing for foreigners learning English. And with Thai, I've often heard foreigners complaining that, there's so many consonants and so many vowels in Thai. But is it better to have one vowel for one vowel sound, or is it better to have one vowel that can make many different sounds? And I would argue that the Thai system is a lot easier. So let's return to the word that we started with, which was transliterated as Angon, and see what we have. And from what I've covered so far, you should know that the first syllable is just a very short And then this is the second syllable. So what we have is this ngol consonant as the initial consonant, and this is quite a tough one for foreigners because it's the ng sound. As a final consonant, it's easy, sing, song, king, thing, that's easy. But when we have to pronounce ng as an initial consonant, it's tough and it takes some practice. And our final consonant is just a plain N, and the vowel, which is written below the initial consonant, is a very short U. It's like the U in put or foot. So the word is Angon, and we have a tone mark as well. So the tone of the second syllable, the initial consonant is low class, and the tone mark is the first tone mark, and a combination of a low class initial consonant and the first tone mark is a falling tone. So Angon. And as I've said many times, my tones and pronunciation aren't fantastic, but that's basically the sound it makes. I hope that was useful. When I got to Thailand, I signed up for 20 hours of conversation lessons, and the girl who taught me asked if I also wanted to learn to read Thai. And I distinctly remember being quite horrified by the suggestion. I knew it would be a mountain to climb just to learn to speak some Thai, and learning to read Thai at the same time just seemed like too much for me, so I immediately said no. But with hindsight, that was a mistake, and as I found out later, learning to read some basic Thai isn't actually that difficult. So when you're learning to speak, if you can look at the words you're saying and try to match the spelling to the sounds, it will pay big dividends. And try to avoid transliteration at all costs. I know it's very tempting to use transliteration because you don't need to learn anything to be able to read the words, but it's actually more misleading than it is helpful. So my biggest suggestion will be just to avoid transliteration and learn to read Thai as soon as you can. As ever, thank you for watching, and more videos soon.